love we share when we join in prayer. Time to pray. Time to pray. Let God's love light our way. When this world feels cold, His blessings still unfold. His love makes us whole, brings peace to our soul. Oh, time to pray. Time to pray. Time to pray. Time to pray. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see all of you this morning. Good morning, Farah and Hushang and Kambiz, and good morning, Tarane. And we're glad Michael's able to join us this morning. Good, Michael, how you doing there? And everyone out there in Facebook land and our Facebook stream, we're glad you can join us, whether it's right now in real time or even if you happen to, click on our little devotion sometime after it's actually recorded. So we're glad that you're here. And that song, Time to Pray, let's take it literally. Time to pray. Time to pray. I think right now it might be a good idea to have a teaching prayer. So let's pray. Oh God, my God, aid thou thy trusted servants to have loving and tender hearts. Help them to spread amongst all the nations of the earth the light of guidance that cometh from the company on high. Verily, thou art the strong, the powerful, the mighty, the all-subduing, the ever-forgiving. Verily, thou art the generous, the gentle, the tender, the most bountiful. And this is a prayer by Abdul Baha. Again, we'd like to say good morning, everyone. I did say good morning to you, Daryl. How are you doing today, man?
Doing okay. How are you?
I'm good. And
good morning, Nini.
Yes, we have the lovely and talented Nini Ha joining us this morning, who never likes to be seen on camera. Although we were a part of a devotion yesterday. We have a friend that I hope everyone gets to meet soon. His name is Lau Hernando. Lives out in Arizona, and we joined his devotion sometime. And so she actually did a song with me yesterday, and was seen on camera. Yeah, although she chose to stay in the background, but she's there. So we're so glad you could be with us, Nini. And she won't be with us next week, man.
Oh, okay.
She won't be with us next week, but we're glad you could be here. And we're saying good morning to Joan, who's just logged on. Good morning, Joan. How you doing? Okay, now, folks, as you know, we are continuing our study. And first of all, I want to say, I noticed we're more than halfway through this book.
Yes.
We're more than halfway through this book, which is amazing to me. And as you know, we are today covering the second part of this particular chapter. Usually we cover chapters in a day, each chapter in a day. But today's chapter from the book, The Proofs of Baha'u'llah's Mission. The Proofs of Baha'u'llah's Mission. We're continuing our study today, and we're doing chapter, what is that? Chapter 27? Yeah, yes. Chapter 27. And again, this is the second part of that chapter. Now, since I don't have my book, what's the title of that chapter again?
The title of the chapter is His Teachings Are Suited to the Needs of This Age.
Okay, and his is a reference to
Baha'u'llah.
Exactly. His teachings are suited for the needs of this age.
As the manifestation for this age.
Yeah, as the manifestation. And Andy's joining us today again. Hello, Andy. We're glad that you could be here. But, as I'm looking back through this, and again, I always like to give a little bit of context, a little bit of perspective, and remind people that what we're talking about is the fact that all of the major prophets are indeed what we call messengers of God and manifestations of God, and that Baha'u'llah is the latest prophet who is a manifestation of God, and he is the manifestation of God for this day. And that is why it's so important that we pay attention to exactly what his teachings are, and the fact that, as this chapter points out, his teachings are suited to the needs of this age. And the reason that's important beyond that is every manifestation's teachings are suited for the needs of the age in which they are sent. So that's why it's so important that we make that connection.
And that goes back to God's covenant with man when he created man as an infant, spiritual infant. He said, I will never leave you alone. So for every stage in man's development, God has sent a manifestation for that age, and that's that time. Mm-hmm. So we are reaching that time of spiritual maturity. And Baha'u'llah is the messenger for this stage in man's spiritual development.
Yes. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. And everything we're reading today is coming from Abdul-Baha. It's coming from some answered questions in which Abdul-Baha answers a lot of the questions that people have that shows, and these are just my words, the practicality of spiritual solutions to the problems and challenges, shall we say, that mankind has, throughout its existence. And so again, for this day, the application of spiritual principles to, the everyday challenges of life still have, the application of those principles still has to be practical.
Right.
It still has to be practical. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're starting on page 146. And so, Daryl,
okay,
if you'd be so kind.
Absolutely. Among his teachings was the declaration of universal peace. People of different nations, religions, and sects who followed him came together to such an extent that remarkable gatherings were instituted consisting of the various nations and religions of the East. Every soul who entered the gathering saw but one nation, one teaching, one pathway, one order, for the teachings of Baha'u'llah were not limited to the establishment of universal peace. They embraced many teachings which supplemented and supported that of universal peace. And among the teachings of Baha'u'llah is that although material civilization is one of the means for the progress of the world of mankind, yet until it becomes combined with divine civilization, the desired result, which is the felicity of mankind, will not be attained.
I gotta stop you there, Daryl. And notice that word divine is capitalized.
Right.
And it seems like it would be just an adjective. Why do you think it's capitalized?
Because it is the divine civilization is that civilization of God.
Ooh.
That civilization of the highest order of being.
And notice how Abdul-Baha differentiates between material civilization, which of course we're all familiar with, material civilization, but until it becomes combined with divine civilization, the desired result, which is the felicity of mankind, the happiness of mankind, will not be attained. So we can get all the money, we can get all the technological advances and so forth, but without that divine civilization,
it's nothing.
Yeah.
And among the teachings of Baha'u'llah is the promotion of education. Every child must be instructed in the sciences as much as is necessary. If the parents are able to provide the express of this, or if the parents are able to provide the expenses of this education, it is well to provide, let me back up. Among the teachings of Baha'u'llah is the promotion of education. Every child must be instructed in the sciences
Oh.
as much as is necessary. If the parents are able to provide the expenses of education, it is well. Otherwise, the community must provide the means for the teachings of that child. Okay, it says it takes the onus off of the parents if they are unable to the community. So if the parents can't provide for the expenses of the child's education, the community must provide those expenses.
You know, I don't know about you, Daryl, but I got to tell you, when I first started studying the writings, it blew me away that the pursuit of education was not just, again, for the
gloss over,
yeah, for the purpose of, get educated so you can, let's say, have a good job or whatever the case may be. It's a spiritual thing.
That's right.
I mean, this is in the spiritual writings that the promotion of education for every child, again, the fact that it is part of this revelation, that it speaks to the importance of education, and the fact that it points out that every child must be educated, and if the parents can't do it, then it is the responsibility of the community that all are educated. I don't know, maybe for some people that's just, well, that's nice. But to me, the fact that this is the word of God saying this, to me, it's huge. That is pointing it out so specifically.
Right. And among the teachings of Baha'u'llah are justice and right.
Mm.
Until these are realized on the plane of existence, all things shall be in disorder and remain imperfect. The world of mankind is the world of oppression and cruelty, and a realm of aggression and error. In fine, such teachings are numerous. These manifold principles, which constitute the greatest basis for the felicity of mankind and are of the bounties of the merciful, must be added to the matter of universal peace and combined with it so that results may accrue. Otherwise, the realization of universal peace by itself in the world of mankind is difficult. As the teachings of Baha'u'llah are combined with universal peace, they are like a table provided with every kind of fresh and delicious food. Every soul can find at that table of infinite bounty that which he desires. The teachings of Baha'u'llah are such that all the communities of the world, whether religious, political, or ethical, ancient or modern, find in them the expression of their highest wish. For example, the people of religions find in the teachings of Baha'u'llah the establishment of universal religion, a religion that perfectly conforms with present conditions, which in reality affects the immediate cure of the incurable disease, which relieves every pain and bestows the infallible antidote for every deadly poison. For if we wish to arrange and organize the world of mankind in accordance with the present religions, imitations, and thereby to establish the felicity of the world of humankind, it is impossible and impractical. For example, the enforcement of the laws of the Torah and also of other religions in accordance with the present imitations. Let me back up. If we wish to arrange and organize the world of mankind in accordance with the present religious imitations and thereby establish the felicity of the world of mankind, it is impossible and impracticable. For example, the enforcement of the laws of the Torah and also of the other religions in accordance with present imitations. But the essential basis of all the divine religions, which pertains to the virtues of the world of humankind, and as the foundation of the welfare of the world of man, it is found in the teachings of Baha'u'llah in the most perfect presentation.
Now, you probably know I'm going to stop you there.
I know.
Right, so that's a lot. That's an awful lot. And I noticed that Abdu'l-Baha, I noticed two words in some of our most recent readings, two words that he uses frequently: impossible and impracticable.
Yeah.
Impossible and impracticable. And in my own maybe sacrilegious way, I'm hearing the way you all are trying to bring about this universal peace, this, peace on earth, goodwill toward men. The way you're doing it, it ain't gonna get you what you want because it just don't make no sense.
Right. Right.
Now, of course, he says it in a much loftier and a much more intelligent way. But that's what he's saying. It's impossible and impracticable, and it's not practical. The methods that have been used up to this point.
Well, it basically, in essence, what it says, you cannot apply those old teachings to a modern world.
Absolutely.
Because those old teachings do not take into consideration how much things have progressed or improved,
yes,
or changed. So, for example, the concept in certain religions that you don't eat certain foods. Well, in the days when they established those rules for those foods in which you could and couldn't eat, they didn't have the ability to preserve food the way that we do today. So those laws that were put in place were there for the protection of mankind, because that's what they had only progressed so far.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you can preserve certain foods for a considerable amount of time, which allows you to be able to eat them. So you can't apply old laws to modern life.
And you know what? To dovetail on what you're saying and apply and looking at the next part here, the next section, the next paragraph, the next few paragraphs,
which you're going to read,
it has to do with freedom. And I want to give you all a heads up. Some people ain't going to like what it says. So, similarly, with regard to the peoples who clamor for freedom, the moderate freedom, which guarantees the welfare of the world of mankind and maintains and preserves the universal relationships, is found in its fullest power and extension in the teachings of Baha'u'llah. Now, I know all of this is about the teachings of Baha'u'llah, but there are a couple of phrases that jumped out at me. Moderate freedom.
Yeah.
Moderate. And he says, with regard to the peoples who clamor for freedom, like we should have total freedom. Moderate freedom. The moderate freedom which guarantees the welfare of the world of mankind.
That's right.
And maintains and preserves the universal relationships, is found in the fullest power and extension in the teachings of Baha'u'llah. The next statement, he mentions political parties. He says, so with regard to political parties, that which is the greatest policy directing the world of mankind, nay, rather, the divine policy, is found in the teachings of Baha'u'llah. Likewise, with regard to the party of equality, and I'm putting air quotes here because in this book, the word is in quotations. Likewise, with regard to the party of equality, which seeks the solution of the economic problems. Until now, all proposed solutions have proved impracticable. Here we go again, impracticable, except the economic proposals in the teachings of Baha'u'llah, which are practicable and cause no distress to society. So with the other parties, when you look deeply into this matter, you will discover that the highest aims of those parties are found in the teachings of Baha'u'llah. These teachings constitute the all-inclusive power among all men, the all-inclusive power among all men and are practicable. But there are some teachings of the past, such as those of the Torah, which cannot be carried out at the present day, just what you were saying there. It is the same with the other religions and the tenets of the various sects and the different parties. For example, the question of universal peace, about which Baha'u'llah says that, I gotta stop here. In this particular paragraph, I'm just gonna go ahead. Okay. But you really need to listen to what he's saying here. For example, the question of universal peace, about which Baha'u'llah says that the supreme tribunal must be established. The supreme tribunal must be established. This was after the League of Nations had already been established. United Nations had not yet been established, but the League of Nations had. And so Abdu'l-Baha goes on to say, although the League of Nations has been brought into existence, yet it is incapable of establishing universal peace. I think he probably would say the same thing about the United Nations.
That's right.
But the Supreme Tribunal, which Baha'u'llah has described, will fulfill this sacred task with the utmost might and power. And his plan is this: that the national assemblies of each country and nation, that is to say, parliaments, should elect two or three persons who are the choicest men of that nation and are well informed concerning international laws and the relations between governments, and aware of the essential needs of the world of humanity in this day.
Say that again. That's key.
Where do you want me to start?
They are aware of the essential needs.
Aware of the essential needs of the world of humanity in this day. Not just their little community, not just their part of the world of humanity in this day.
Well, and a key statement, the key element is that it is the essential needs of the world of humanity, meaning that it is the very basic of needs.
Yeah.
Because no one in the world of humanity should have to struggle to meet their essential needs.
Thank you. He goes on. The number of these representatives should be in proportion to the number of inhabitants in that country. The election of these souls, who are chosen by the National Assembly, that is the Parliament, must be confirmed by the upper house. Now, this is where, where the practical, I can see people kind of, I don't literally see it, but kind of, this is where sooner or later you got to get down to the nuts and bolts.
That's right.
And this is just a smidgen, a tiniest part of the nuts and bolts, the beginning of the nuts and bolts. But he says the election of these souls who are chosen by the National Assembly, that is the Parliament, must be confirmed by the upper house, the Congress, and the cabinet, and also by the president or monarch. So these persons may be the elected ones of all the nation and the government. From among these people, the members of the Supreme Tribunal will be elected, and all mankind will thus have a share therein. For every one of these delegates is fully representative of his nation. He goes on, when the Supreme Tribunal gives a ruling on any international question, either unanimously or by majority rule, there will no longer be any pretext for the plaintiff or ground of objection for the defendant. It's law. That's my words, it's law. I don't want you to think I'm throwing things in there or giving words. In case any of the governments or nations, in the execution of the irrefutable decision of the Supreme Tribunal, be negligent or dilatory, the rest of the nations will rise up against it, because all the governments and nations of the world are the supporters of this Supreme Tribunal. Consider what a firm foundation this is. But by a limited and restricted league, the purpose will not be realized as it ought and should. This is the truth about the situation which has been stated. Now, when we start talking about governmental things, it can get a little involved or very involved, and a little, complicated.
But this is a blueprint.
Yes,
This is a blueprint in its simplest form.
yes.
And
yes.
it is one that makes the most sense in terms of the world of humanity and the existence of all mankind.
So imagine the combination of moderate freedom, everyone's essential needs being met, and a supreme tribunal, which involves representatives from every single nation on earth coming together and making sure that the needs of all of humanity are met. Because sooner or later, we can talk, spirituality and mysticism and so forth. Sooner or later, it's got to get down to the nuts and bolts in this physical realm that we're all existing in, we're all sharing in. And so these are the beginnings. Like you said, this is the blueprint of that. You want to take a little moment out?
Sure.
Okay. Love it. with the light of love, 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 with the light of love. I think it's important that we point out that, again, all of these things that when we're talking about this, all of these practical application of spiritual solutions to today's challenges, what the foundation of it all is love. The
That's
love
right.
of God and the love that we should be having for one another. We've got one more passage to read, Darrell. You wanna take that one?
I'll take part of it. I'll leave the rest to you. In cycles gone by, though harmony was established, yet owing to the absence of means, the unity of all mankind could not have been achieved. Continents remained widely divided. Nay, even among the peoples of one and the same continent, association and interchange of thought were well nigh impossible. Consequently, intercourse, understanding, and unity amongst all the peoples and kindreds of the earth were unattainable. In this day, however, the means of communication have multiplied, and the 5 continents of the earth have virtually merged into one. And for everyone, it is now easy to travel to any land, to associate and exchange views with its people, and to become familiar through publications with the conditions, the religious beliefs, and the thoughts of all men. In like manner, all the members of the human family, whether peoples or governments, cities or villages, have become increasingly interdependent. For none is self-sufficiency any longer possible, inasmuch as political ties unite all peoples and nations, and the bonds of trade and industry, of agriculture and education are being strengthened every day. Hence the humanity, I just washed my tongue this morning, I can't do anything with it. Hence the unity of all mankind in this day can be achieved. Hence the unity of all mankind can in this day be achieved. Verily, this is none other but one of the wonders of this wondrous age, this glorious century. Of this past ages have been deprived, for this century, the century of light, hath been endowed with unique and unprecedented glory, power, and illumination. Hence the miraculous unfolding of a fresh marvel every day. Eventually, it will be seen how bright its candles will burn in the assemblage of man.
I'm listening to you read this, and I mean, it's like we can see it playing out. So much of this has already played out, and I'm thinking about how right now we're talking about the interdependence of all the nations of the earth and all mankind and so forth. And Abdu'l-Baha says, for none is self-sufficiency any longer possible.
That's right.
Inasmuch as political ties unite all peoples and nations. We're seeing that for the good and the bad. And the bonds of trade and industry, of agriculture and education are being strengthened every day. We're seeing that for the good and the bad. I'm going to get a little personal here. We have a fan. It's a nice fan. It's a high-end fan. But it needs to be replaced. And it's under warranty. Yeah, a fan under warranty. And the manufacturer says they will replace it. No problem there. But they can't do it right now. They can't get the computer chips
from somewhere else.
Exactly. It's just an example of how we would love to think that we can do it all ourselves.
That's right.
But we can't. We can't. And this explains why. Hence, but again, in a more positive light, hence the unity of all mankind can in this day be achieved. And you mentioned the last line in that paragraph. Eventually, it will be seen how bright its candles will burn in the assemblage of man. And in this last paragraph, Abdu'l-Baha lists, metaphorically, of course, lists these candles. He says,
why don't you read that paragraph?
Yeah. That's a nice way of telling me to shut up. That's a nice way of telling me to Behold, I'm sorry. Behold how its light is now dawning upon the world's darkened horizon. The first candle is unity in the political realm, the early glimmerings of which can now be discerned. The second candle is unity of thought in world undertakings, the consummation of which will ere long be witnessed. The third candle is unity in freedom, which will surely come to pass. The fourth candle is unity in religion, which is the cornerstone of the foundation itself, and which, by the power of God, will be revealed in all its splendor. The fifth candle is the unity of nations, a unity which in this century will be securely established, causing all the peoples of the world to regard themselves as citizens of one common fatherland. The sixth candle is unity of races, making of all that dwell on earth peoples and kindreds of one race. The seventh candle is unity of language. In essence, the choice of a universal tongue in which all peoples will be instructed and converse. Each and every one of these will inevitably come to pass, inasmuch as the power of the kingdom of God will aid and assist in their realization. And that last sentence is a pretty important sentence. Each and every one of these will inevitably come to pass, inasmuch as the power of the kingdom of God will aid and assist in their realization. We talked about divine civilization.
That's right.
So again, as we move from spiritual principles to practical solutions and application of practical solutions based on spiritual principles, this is a lot of what we're talking about. And if you,
I think that each one of us should take this last paragraph, blow it up, and stick it on our walls so that every day we know what our goals are, what we need to help achieve. Because here's the blueprint.
yes,
Here is the blueprint. This is what it's going to take for the universal peace. This is what it's going to take for the future existence of all mankind. It's here.
yeah,
We have a goal, we have a blueprint, and we have basically what we need to start along that path.
and obviously these words from Abdu'l-Baha were in the early 20th century, but in a much more recent letter from the Universal House of Justice, whoever doesn't know what that is, it is the supreme governing body of the Baha'i faith globally. And they sent out a letter. And we're not going to read this letter. It's a very lengthy letter, but there are some paragraphs in this letter that hopefully one day I would love to be able to share in this class. Right now, Baha'is around the world are studying this letter because there is so much in there that has practical application in a very timely fashion. There is certainly an acknowledgement of all the challenges in the world today. And it is a strengthening message. It is an inspiring message. And it really looks at the conditions of today and in the language of today that we can relate to, in a very current way. It points out things that we need to be concerned about, and gives us guidance on how we can adhere to certainly the spiritual principles that we are supposed to be adhering to, while still doing what we can on a personal level and even on a community level to do what we can to apply those principles and solutions to the challenges that we face today. It's a really good letter, and as I said, a lot of Baha'is are reading that now and studying it in groups, actually. And if you're someone who's interested in that, I would say contact some of your local Baha'is, and you can have access to that. At this time,
Tony,
yes.
can I ask you maybe the differentiation between the first candle, which is the unity of political, and also the unity of nation? What are the differences between both?
All right, no Camby's.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
On the spot, did you? Well, first of all, I want to preface my answer by saying
Maybe next time.
that is something, but that's a very good question. Okay, you got the unity of nations, and then you got a unity of politics. Well, wait a minute. And obviously there are some differences there. And I think that's a very good conversation to have. And I'm not just putting it off. I think that's a very good question. It's something we definitely need to talk about. And maybe we can think about this and for next week. Yeah, because that's an excellent question. And we certainly do need to address that.
But what I will say, what I think is at the core of the answer that you may be looking for is that we need to consider each of these separately. We have to be able to separate the political from the physical nations, that kind of thing. So,
and there's, without going into too much detail, because I really got to give this serious.
Yeah, so do I.
That is a simply stated question, but it's not a simple question.
No, it's not. The answer is not simple.
That's right. But it says the first candle is unity in the political realm. But then he says the sixth candle is unity of, no, you said nations, right? The fifth candle is unity of nations, a unity in which this century will be securely established, causing all the peoples of the world to regard themselves as citizens of one common fatherland. Yeah. So I think maybe one is more general.
Yeah.
And one is more specific to individuals. Right. But yeah, I think that's something that we need to go into more detail with. And I appreciate you asking that question, Kambiz. Thank you. And at this time, we are going to go ahead and move on. And I didn't say hello I didn't say hello to Sue. And I thought I saw,
Hi, Joan.
Yes. And I didn't say hello to Andy either. Good morning, Andy. How you doing? Everything's good. But at this time, we'd like to go ahead and move forward and have time for people that want to share some prayers or songs or readings. And as always, we like to start with our Kambiz moment. And Andy, are you going to be sharing something with us today? All righty, so we're going to have some music from or a prayer of their choosing from Kambiz and Andy. So let's start with Kambiz. Kambiz,
Tony.
I didn't even ask if you had something to share with. I'm just taking it for granted now. But
right.
Kambiz.
Tony, can you ask Andy? I lost my internet.
Oh, okay. All righty. Okay, so Andy, if you would like to go first, we'll have our Andy Murphy moment.